If you're here on Legacy of Survival, you already know that history isn't just a collection of dates and dusty relics. It's a toolbox. And before we dive into these 8 World War II bunkers and the modern prepper lessons they reveal, make sure you subscribe and share this video so more people who actually care about real history, not flashy movie versions, can join us. What you're about to learn comes straight from the places where real people survived the unthinkable. These bunkers aren't just ruins, they're manuals written in concrete, steel, and human ingenuity. By the end of this guide, you'll see that many of the strategies people used under bombardment, invasion, and isolation are the same strategies modern preppers try to master today. How hidden Norwegian resistance bunkers teach us the value of layered concealment. Deep in the forests of Norway, resistance fighters built bunkers that blended so perfectly with the landscape that many weren't uncovered until decades after the war. They didn't rely on one layer of concealment, they relied on several. Their entrances sat behind boulders, under natural tree lines, and sometimes down sloped paths that erased footprints with every rainfall. Modern preppers often talk about hiding supplies, but these bunkers show the real method diversification of concealment. If you're safeguarding gear today, don't depend on a single camouflage tactic. For instance, store some long-term supplies in weatherproof, buried containers in separate areas rather than keeping everything in one secret spot. If nature can play a role in masking something, let it. The Norwegian fighters didn't trust a single strategy, and neither should anyone preparing for uncertain times. How the Maginot Line's subterranean cities reveal the importance of sustainable internal systems. France's Maginot Line gets remembered for strategic failure, but its internal bunker systems were masterpieces of sustainability. Air filtration chambers, self-contained water infrastructure, internal power generation, and food storage that could support troops for weeks. The lesson isn't to build a fortress. It's that any shelter, urban or rural, needs independent life support. A modern application could be as simple as building a dual-mode air system with both electric filtration and a passive airflow backup. Or creating a layered water strategy, stored water, filtration capability, and a method for collecting runoff or condensation. The Maginot engineers built redundancy into every essential system. Preppers should do the same. How British coastal defence bunkers show the value of rapid access design. Along the southern coast of Britain, many World War II bunkers weren't grand fortresses. They were compact firing and observation shelters. Their defining strength wasn't armour, it was accessibility. They could be reached quickly, often in under a minute from nearby barracks or homes. Preppers sometimes focus heavily on fortifying a single shelter, but the British design shows that fast, predictable access can matter even more. If you have a home shelter, practice reaching it under different conditions: night, rain, power outage. Arrange your living space so nothing slows you during an emergency. History proves the first few minutes are often the deciding factor. So, let's talk about how German U-boat pens demonstrate structural endurance and resource prioritization. The massive concrete submarine pens in France and Germany were specifically built to survive direct bombardment. Now, while no modern prepper really needs walls several meters thick, the underlying principle is still important. Prioritize durability where it counts most. The Germans, you see, didn't reinforce everything equally. They focused their efforts on roofs and entrances. the most vulnerable points. In modern terms, this might mean reinforcing your shelter's entry door before you even think about adding more gear inside. Or perhaps investing in fire-resistant and moisture-resistant materials for the shelter's envelope before buying another tool or gadget. The WWII structures that still stand today, well, they tell us something simple. Strengthen the points that fail first. Now, shifting focus, let's consider how the London Underground shelters reveal psychological survival strategies. During the Blitz, tens of thousands of civilians found refuge nightly in London's underground stations. What kept people resilient wasn't just physical protection. It was honestly structure, routine, and community. Each station had its own rhythm-designated sleeping spots, organised food lines, and timed lights out. Anyone preparing today often focuses on gear, but psychological endurance is just as critical. If you're building a home bunker or safe room, think about long-duration, comfort-predictable routines, space for movement, and items that support mental stability like books or journals. The underground survivors proved that morale is a survival asset, not a luxury. Let's consider how Japanese island bunkers really illustrate terrain-based defense thinking. On those Pacific islands, Japanese forces carved their bunkers right into the mountainsides, using the natural elevation and terrain to really amplify even the smallest defensive structures. They'd align vents with the prevailing winds, weapon angles with natural choke points, and exit tunnels with hidden slopes. The lesson for today is pretty simple. Terrain does half the work for you, if you understand it. So, when you're selecting a location for a shelter or a cache, treat the landscape itself as part of your design. For example, position an entrance on the leeward side of a hill to cut down on weather exposure, or use natural depressions to prevent leaving visible trails. In the end, terrain is a silent ally, if you read it well. Now, let's look at how Soviet command bunkers show us the value of compartmentalization. Those Soviet deep command posts weren't exactly elegant, but they were built with strict compartmentalization in mind-blast doors, isolated halls, and separated storage so that one breach didn't compromise the entire system. Today, this idea translates into separating your supplies. Don't keep your medical gear, food and tools all in a single closet. Instead, spread them across different rooms or containers so that a fire, a leak, or even a break-in doesn't wipe out everything at once. Compartmentalization also applies to information. Share locations and plans only with those who truly need to know, just as wartime operators did. Moving on, let's talk about how Allied forward operating bunkers highlight the importance of mobility-ready shelters. Not all bunkers were meant to be permanent, after all. Many Allied forward positions were designed so they could be abandoned and re-established quickly. They kept their essentials portable: radios, maps, minimal rations, that sort of thing. For modern preppers, this is a good reminder to maintain a mobile kit alongside your main storage. A shelter is only useful if you're able to leave it when circumstances demand. So, pack a small, ready-to-move subset of your supplies and make sure you rotate those items regularly. These 8 World War II bunkers aren't just remnants of the past. They're guides for anyone who's serious about preparedness. If you value real history and practical survival knowledge, go ahead and subscribe to Legacy of Survival and share this guide so we can keep building a community of people who study the past with real purpose.